He's different.
You can't get him out of your head.
No.
I need your assistance.
I'm coming, Master!
Oh, you feel like he could destroy you with the snap of his fingers.
Renfield is a movie that dives deep into the chaotic, darkly humorous, and wildly entertaining world of monsters, power, and codependency. At its heart, it's a story about breaking free from toxic control, but told through a bloody, fast-paced, and clever twist on one of the most famous horror tales ever imagined. It reimagines a familiar myth not through the eyes of the infamous vampire, but through the tortured assistant who's finally had enough of serving evil. The film brings together gothic horror and modern absurdity, blending moments of pure chaos with emotional undertones that make it both thrilling and strangely human. The movie begins with a gothic, yet stylish atmosphere, immediately setting the tone with its mix of horror and comedy. The setting feels like it belongs to two worlds, one haunted by the weight of Dracula's legacy, and the other bursting with the absurd energy of modern life. At the center of it all is Renfield, the long-suffering servant of Dracula, trapped in a cycle of servitude that has lasted far too long. He's tired, frustrated, and emotionally drained, yet unable to fully break away from the grip of his immortal master. The opening scenes capture this dynamic beautifully, Dracula's towering presence, Renfield's forced obedience, and the twisted bond that binds them. Renfield's story is one of both horror and liberation. For centuries, he has catered to Dracula's every whim, bringing victims, cleaning up messes, and enduring endless verbal abuse. The movie portrays this relationship not as a traditional horror trope, but as an exaggerated metaphor for toxic relationships in real life. Renfield's servitude is filled with both dark comedy and painful truth. His eyes reveal a man who once believed in loyalty, but has lost himself in the process. Through smart dialogue and sharp editing, the film builds empathy for him. Even as he's surrounded by madness. As the story progresses, the setting shifts from gothic castles to a chaotic urban city, symbolizing Renfield's attempt to adapt to modern life. The contrast between Dracula's old-world grandeur and Renfield's struggle in the everyday world creates moments that are both hilarious and tragic. He joins a support group, not for the supernatural, but for people in toxic relationships, a clever and ironic reflection of his reality. Surrounded by ordinary people sharing their struggles, Renfield begins to realize how deeply trapped he has been. This becomes a turning point in the movie, marking the start of his journey toward freedom, but of course breaking free from Dracula is not easy. The Count's influence is not just physical but psychological. His voice echoes in Renfield's mind, constantly reminding him that he owes his existence to him. The movie cleverly uses this internal conflict to show how control can linger long after a person tries to escape it. Renfield's attempts at independence, whether it's eating in peace, making friends, or simply saying no, often end in chaos as Dracula inevitably reappears to pull him back. This push-and-pull dynamic creates both tension and humor. Balancing gothic dread with absurd comedy, the visuals of the movie are striking, filled with sharp contrasts of color and light. The moments featuring Dracula are drenched in shadow, smoke, and blood-red tones, while Renfield's world is more grounded in mundane, fluorescent-lit diners, therapy rooms, and crowded streets. The blend of these two styles gives the movie a unique visual identity, constantly reminding viewers that this is a story where horror meets absurdity. The action sequences are over-the-top and energetic, turning gruesome moments into spectacles of dark comedy. Every fight, every drop of blood feels stylized, part horror, part comic book fantasy. Renfield himself evolves throughout the movie in fascinating ways. At first, he's a timid, obedient character, a man who flinches at Dracula's every command. But as he starts to see the world differently, he discovers his own strange abilities. His bond with Dracula has given him unnatural strength and agility, powers he begins to use not for his master but for his own survival. These scenes showcase his transformation not just as a physical being but as someone reclaiming his sense of agency. The film uses his superhuman strength as a metaphor for empowerment, that once you decide to break free, nothing can stop you. Meanwhile, Dracula remains the embodiment of narcissism and manipulation. His character is played with both menace and flair, charming one moment, terrifying the next. His obsession with control drives the story forward as he refuses to accept that his servant could ever defy him. Their confrontations are explosive, filled with biting humor and genuine emotion. Dracula sees himself as a god, and Renfield is nothing more than a tool, which makes Renfield's rebellion all the more powerful. Their relationship becomes a twisted reflection of every manipulative bond, one party thriving on control, the other desperately seeking escape. The plot unfolds. Renfield's path collides with others who bring more chaos into his life. He encounters law enforcement, criminals, and unsuspecting civilians, all of whom become entangled in the supernatural mess that follows him. Each encounter adds layers of humor and absurdity, showing how out of place Renfield's dark world is within modern society. Yet through these experiences, he learns what it means to take responsibility for his own choices. The film keeps its pace brisk, jumping between heartfelt introspection and outrageous mayhem without losing its emotional thread. The emotional high point comes when Renfield finally confronts Dracula, not as a servant, but as an equal. The showdown between them is intense, blending horror, action, and humor in perfect balance. Renfield, once terrified, now stands tall, fueled not by rage but by clarity. He understands that Dracula's power only existed because he allowed it to. The final confrontation is not just about defeating a monster. It's about reclaiming one's soul. The fight scenes here are brilliantly choreographed, fast, brutal, and cathartic. But the real victory lies in Renfield's emotional liberation. The aftermath of this confrontation carries surprising warmth. Once free, Renfield begins to see the world in a new light. The film shifts tone from chaos to quiet reflection, showing him slowly adjusting to normal life. For the first time in centuries, he feels peace, though awkwardly so. His interactions with people are genuine, even if tinged with dark humor. There's an underlying message that freedom doesn't come instantly. It takes time to heal and learn who you are without someone else's control. The film uses humor and emotion hand in hand, making the ending both satisfying and hopeful. One of the most impressive aspects of Renfield is how it balances horror and comedy without losing heart. The humor never undercuts the deeper themes. Instead, it enhances them. Every joke about blood, bats, or therapy carries a subtext about power and identity. The violence, while exaggerated, never feels empty. It's tied to Renfield's struggle for control. Even the smallest moments, like Renfield trying to order food without guilt, feel symbolic of his emotional growth. The film constantly reminds viewers that monsters come in many forms, and sometimes the scariest ones are the people who refuse to let go. The pacing of the movie keeps audiences engaged from start to finish. Each scene feels purposeful, building toward Renfield's transformation. The tone shifts seamlessly between eerie and comedic, ensuring that the story never feels one-dimensional. The dialogue is sharp and witty, filled with lines that capture both the ridiculousness and tragedy of Renfield's situation. The chemistry between the characters adds to the fun. The uneasy alliance between Renfield and others in his journey provides plenty of emotional and humorous moments. In its final moments, Renfield stands as a symbol of self-liberation. The movie closes with a sense of balance. The darkness hasn't vanished, but Renfield has learned how to live with it. The world may still be strange and unpredictable, but he's no longer afraid of it. His journey from servant to survivor, from victim to hero, makes for an unexpectedly uplifting conclusion. The movie leaves audiences with laughter, a touch of horror, and a strong message about breaking free from what controls you. No matter how powerful it seems, Renfield manages to do something rare. It takes a legendary tale rooted in fear and reinvents it as a story about empowerment. It's thrilling, funny, and heartfelt all at once. By focusing on the overlooked servant instead of the master, it turns a century-old horror myth into a modern reflection on identity, self-worth, and courage. It's the kind of film that makes you laugh, cringe, and think all within the same scene. By the end, it's not just a story about Dracula's servant. It's a story about anyone who's ever had to fight for their freedom and finally found the strength to say, enough. To say, enough.